Hello and welcome to Module 9. As I shared last module, you'll need to make sure that you definitely have your Graham and Harris text by now. If you don't, you need to notify me ASAP because you are behind. All right, let's dive into this week's topic. Before I go any further, I want you to write down the word spelling and send me the word spelling for your password for this week for this module. Okay, I want you to go ahead and look at these three questions. What are the six writing genres? What types of graphic organizers go with each of these genres? And how do you assess the writing genres? Put the video on pause for a moment before and write down what you think these question answers should be. Okay, now that you've done that, I want you to check your answers with what I'm going to describe in this next section. The genres of writing include 6, but you might have heard of more, and it could be just due to the way they're written, but these are basically the general genres that we teach to every single year for our students to hit the standards. Descriptive, expository, narrative, persuasive, poetry, and technical are all the genres. Descriptive is the one where it's going to be describing a person, place, or thing in a vivid detail. Graphic organizers for this could be a web or a sense chart. Sense chart meaning your 5 senses, your taste, smell, touch, etc. Webs for most teachers, I've had a lot of language arts teachers tell me that the typical web where you have students write their ideas in a circle and branch it off from the main topic in the center is difficult for students because they're able to do this part, but when it comes to transitioning to actually putting that down in writing, they look at this circle with all of these ideas and don't even know where to start. A solution to this that I learned a few years ago is instead of having your students create more of an octopus, have them create more of like a jellyfish, but a jellyfish laying on its side. Have all the tentacles going off to the side of all of their ideas this way, and then when students get ready to write, they're going to be writing top to bottom. It helps students to have a better understanding of what are their ideas. Expository is the next one. This one is a genre that gives an explanation or directions. It could be like a how-to, for example, how to ride your bike, or it could be an explanation such as, here's what I did over my weekend. Or it could be, this is my favorite, this is my favorite backpack, or this is my favorite car, and giving me an explanation as to why that is. We typically use T-charts for this type of information, or you could even do a sequencing chart. I didn't list that here, but you could do that as well, such as step 1, step 2, step 3, etc. But a T-chart for this one would look like this, where you would have your reasons and then your explanations. Narrative. This one is the goal of the genre is to tell a story of an experience, event, sequence of events while holding the reader's interest. This could be either a fictional story, like a make-believe story, or it could be factual, like really what they did. For example, what did you do over your summer vacation? Tell me what happened. Or you went to a concert, tell me what had happened. Or it could be a mythical creature that you met in your dreams, for example. It could be whatever a student wants to come up with in this one, but it's basically a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So using a story map is great. Using a timeline, if it's actual factual, if it happened over a sequence, like somebody's life history, such as the moment they were born to them, to their current time. So they were born here. What has happened between birth to current, for example. Students could create timelines and explain things like that. Or a sequencing chart. Persuasive. The goal of this genre is to give an opinion and attempt to convince a reader that the point of view is valid or tries to persuade the reader to take a specific action. It's always fun to ask students to do this about like what they would like to see as change within school, if they have to wear uniforms, what their opinion is on wearing school uniforms, things like that. So once again, you could use a T-chart that gives that reason or explanation, or it could be a Venn diagram where it could be more of that cause or effect, or what they have in common. So my idea is this, here's the opposite opinion, here's what they have in common, but I'm leaning more towards this side than I am the other side, for example. Poetry. Poetic writing is a written art form that helps a writer express an imaginative awareness and arrange to create a specific emotion response, sometimes employed by the use of repetition, meter, and rhyme. With poetry, it could just be, like it says here, a rhyme that you're following an A, B, A, B, A, B, or A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A sort of pattern, or it could even be like a haiku. So the graphic organizers that you're going to be using for poetry are a lot more specific based off of the poetry poetry you're expecting your students to write. Technical writing, I wish I had a class in school that taught me how to do technical writing. And the reason why I say that is because I would love to move to Silicon Valley in California and make millions of dollars every single year writing basic instructions for how to use a printer or how to use a calculator or things like that, because that's basically what it is. It's the technical writing is that clear communication of a select piece of information to a target reader or group of readers for a particular purpose in such a way that the subject can readily be understood. It is expository writing that requires a response from a reader. So this one's different. It's more that the person who is writing the technical piece is explaining to somebody else how to use something in some way or form. Basically, anytime you buy any device or equipment these days, you always get a manual of some sort, whether it's your treadmill, whether it's your brand new cell phone, whether it's your TV. There's always manuals that go along with them. People get paid an amazing amount of money to come up with those. So really interesting. You won't typically see technical writing at a younger grade level. You'll more likely see it middle school, hopefully high school for students to use. Down here on the bottom, I have, and by the way, technical writing would have a graphic organizer most likely of a sequence chart or steps. Here's to do first, here's your next step, here's your next step sort of thing. You can visit this website that I've listed here. There's a variety of free organizers already there, which are great to use. You could also use Inspiration or Kidspiration. They're fantastic for creating graphic organizers for students to do on the computer so that they don't have to actually physically write them out, which is great. But you can just even Google search graphic organizers, and I'm sure you'll find tons. Want to go into development of writing real quick. So students typically develop writing a lot quicker than we do most other things. Reading takes a lot more time. Math takes a lot more time. Writing is very quick. Students at a younger age, even prior to coming to school, learn some form of writing if they have individuals who work with them and give them opportunities to practice. It's imperative. I know a lot of individuals sometimes think, oh, kindergarten is the magical time that they learn these things. No, they can actually start learning these things prior to even coming to school. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and even getting into stage 4 is what we're looking for our emergent writers. And emergent writers are students who are going to be drawing pictures and writing, scribbling random letters, and beginning their phonetic spelling is all beginning writers. This typically you normally see within preschool and the beginning part of kindergarten. Towards the end of kindergarten, you're having more students going into becoming a developing writer, where they're going to be using their phonetic or phonemic awareness to write, as well as starting to use transitional spelling. By the time they're out of kindergarten, they should already be using, for the most part, more transitional spelling and getting into conventional spelling and becoming more independent writers by the time they're most likely in 2nd, 3rd grade. That's the typical norm. If you look at the standards, that's what's really expected of our students, is to be able to express their ideas and put it down and make it make sense. So you might be asking yourself, what does this even look like then? Well, let me show you. Here's an example. So as you can see here, you can see how you begin with emergent stuff such as just drawing, but there's no actual letter formation at all, just to describe something, versus a kiddo who's beginning just to scribble and then starting to actually form their own letters. As you can see, none of this is actually writing. This one is the closest thing to writing, but it's actual letters, but it really still doesn't communicate anything. Typically, we see students, even before they get to kindergarten, even preschool, being able to do this. I have even seen 2- and 3-year-olds be able to do this quite well, and that's very normal and typical. When you start getting into where they're actually forming words, such as can or the word dog, that's where you're actually getting them to start putting things together and becoming more of your phonetic spellers and being able to be semi-phonetic to phonetic spelling at this point in time, but it still doesn't all go together with writing. When students are actually being able to use words and put them together into a sentence using that phonetic, even that transitional writing, that's what this would look like. And then last but not least would be our traditional spelling, which is our traditional writing, how we see it every single day, where you've got actual words that go together that have a meaning. So as you can see, we progress to this, but we progress to this a whole heck of a lot sooner than we do, like I said, other content areas. So you might be asking yourself, well, what does the scope and sequence really look like for writing? Because it does move so quickly. A key thing is to look at your standards, and you're going to be doing this for your math projects. So I'd like for you to take some time this week to go into the writing language arts standards within called the CDE website and start to take a look at how quickly it builds and what we're expecting our kiddos to do even at a young age. By the time they're in 4th and 5th grade, they're utilizing metaphors, personification, similes, etc. to become stronger writers, not just, oh, I can write with a capital letter, I can end with punctuation. There's way more that goes into it. So there's starting targets for students to being able to master at an earlier age and expressing their writing in such a very vivid way. There are tons of research-based strategies out there, and lucky you, you have this all within your text of the Graham and Harris. The Graham and Harris text will give you a variety of strategies for teaching, planning, writing, and revising. It'll share with you how and where these should be taught, what resources you could use for teaching students with language. As you know, there's assistive technology out there. Students could use Dragon Speak, they could use Paperport, they could use in addition to that, they could use a voice recorder. They could use a variety of things. The great thing is that the state has recognized that students who need assistive technology, who have a difficulty from taking it to their head and putting it on paper, that if they could just read it into a computer and the computer types it for them, as long as they go in and make the grammatical changes and add things, then the state sees that as being just the same thing as physically writing something down on a piece of paper. So there's a great deal out there. If you want more information on those things, I can certainly provide a list for you. So keep in mind too that understanding the difference between expressive language and receptive language. Expressive language is for you to be able to share your ideas, your thoughts, stating it, saying it, writing it down. Receptive is more of that reading and listening component. So expressive language is huge, of course, in writing. And as I've mentioned before, you understanding your own knowledge base will definitely impact how you're going to teach your students. Last but not least, I wanted to go over these real quick concepts because there is a difference. There is a difference in writing between a program and curriculum. As we mentioned before, there's a lot of strategies that we can use. Step Up to Writing and Sixth Trait are strategy programs that students can use to teach math or for teachers to use. Curriculum is completely different. Curriculum gives you a scope and sequence, has you work on specific skills, builds upon itself, and that would be more of like a National Literacy Coalition's Every Child a Writer, which I personally stand behind a great deal because I think it's fantastic. It really helps our students to be able to reach those targets a lot sooner. If we're looking at how quick students can build achievement, this is definitely a good one to start. So you might be thinking of others. You might be thinking of what you use within your school. If you even go to the language arts teacher and say, what writing curriculum do you use? You'll be very interesting to find out that there's really not a set curriculum. If they just pay attention to the standards, follow what the standards are asking them to do, they're going to be just fine. Because writing, unlike math and other topics, it's a lot more difficult to actually have an actual curriculum to write. So I hope that helps with this week. If you have any questions or need any more information, feel free to let me know. Once again, your password for this week was the word spelling. Please send me the word spelling for your password this week. Take care.